Well, good morning. Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living. This morning I'm going to be reading the thought for the week, and those of you in the room can join me as I get down to the bottom in the bold area. The theme for September is Back to Basics, with the recognition that school is back in session, and it is a good time to review some of the basics that we teach. We are an independent religious science church, also known as Science of Mind, and comes under the bigger umbrella of New Thought, which is primarily metaphysical in nature. Other New Thought organizations are Affiliated New Thought Network, Agape International Spiritual Center, Association for Global New Thought, Centers for Spiritual Living, Divine Science, International New Thought Alliance, and Unity. Ernest Holmes, founder of religious science, wrote, "The philosophy of religious science is nothing new to the world. It is rather a synthesis of the greatest concepts that have ever come to the mind of humankind: the laws of Moses, the love of Christ, the ethics of the Buddha, the morals of Confucius, and the deep spiritual realization of the Hindus all find an exalted place in the philosophy of religious science." As you can tell by that description, we espouse the value in many paths. We often will acknowledge one God, many paths. Most of our folks would describe themselves as spiritual rather than religious, thus our name, Alpine Church of Spiritual Living. We emphasize that there is one power known by name, and that power is in and as and through its creation. It's omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Being raised Methodist, I typically lean toward Christian teachings and often refer to Bible scriptures in my Sunday lessons. In the Science of Mind textbook, written by Ernest Holmes in 1938, of the 646 pages, 77 pages are devoted to the teachings of Jesus. I invite you to stay tuned this month as we go back to basics and explore the Science of Mind teachings. Say with me, "I have an inquisitive mind and am open to learning more of the science of mind and New Thought teachings, so I may bring them into actualization in my life today. Life is good and very good, and I am grateful." Okay. So as I noted in the thought for the week, that this month we are going back to basics. We're going to be exploring some of the basics that we teach in Science of Mind and New Thought. It's said that it's New Thought, but actually what we teach has been around for centuries. Agape International, founded by Dr. Michael Beckwith up in Los Angeles, calls it New Thought, Ancient Wisdom. And so most of us, I feel in this room, consider ourselves more spiritual than religious, but Ernest Holmes back in the day named it religious science, and he brought together that emphasis of science and religion coming together as one. He also coined the phrase science of mind. So the science is blended both in religion and in our teachings. So as I wrote in the thought for the week, there are many metaphysical teachings, and there are many metaphysical teachers that have come down through the ages. One of the ones that I wanted to highlight this morning is Emma Curtis Hopkins. She was born in 1842 and she passed in 1925. Emma was one of the pioneers, and it was known as the teacher of teachers. And that's because she developed, many of her students developed and went on to establish many of the different veins that we have in New Thought. Some of her students were Nona and Fanny Brooks. They were the co-founders of Divine Science. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were the co-founders of Unity. Harriet Emily Cady is the author of Lessons in Truth, which the Unity people use extensively, and we use them here as well. Ernest Holmes was the founder of religious science. Then those folks had students of their own, so the pyramid goes down and gets broader. Their students include Emmett Fox. He was a divine science minister, and he wrote many things that we have studied and looked at in depth. And one of them was the Sermon on the Mount, and then he wrote a little pamphlet called The Golden Key. So he was a prolific writer, established, wonderful speaker, very, very well-known back in the day. I think he was a minister in New York City and was quite well-known. Florence Scovel Shinn was a Unity teacher, and she wrote The Game of Life and How to Play It. We studied that. Catherine Ponder is a current Unity minister. She's going strong, past 90, out in the desert here in California. Louise Hay, author of You Can Heal Your Life, and the one that established Hay House Publishing Company. Michael Bernard Beckwith, the founder of Agape International, and the list goes on and on and on, of those folks who have gravitated toward this teaching and have fed them and turned around and shared it with others. The organization of the International New Thought Alliance, INTA, it was founded in 1918, so it's over 100 years old, and Emma Curtis Hopkins was its first president. So, you know, in the scheme of things, our tradition is somewhat new, but again, what we are teaching and what we espouse goes back to ancient wisdom times. So our individual church, I said that we are an independent religious science church, and that's true. We come under the umbrella of the Affiliated New Thought Network, ANTN, Anton, is how we say it. Anton is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, and we primarily gather once a year for a retreat, which is coming up at the end of September, so I won't be here the last Sunday in September. There is some room still there at the conference, there at the retreat, if you want to come join us. There's a couple rooms opened up at Unity Village, and you can still, I think the deadline for the registration is going to through the end of this week. So I highly recommend that if you would like to be among some wonderful, amazing people and hear some great speakers to join us at the conference, not maybe this year, but that maybe next year make a plan of it. We will be meeting at Unity. Their Unity Village is what it's called. The Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, were the founders of Unity. It's over 100 years old, and they primarily were a publishing company. They had a lot of things that they published, but one of their sons was an architect, and so they bought quite a bit of land in Kansas, just away from Kansas City, and literally they have their own zip code. It's a whole old city called Unity Village, and I don't know how many acres it is, but they've got beautiful facility, buildings, and they just built a new labyrinth there that we'll be walking, and so highly successful people and a beautiful, pristine place. You can just feel the energy there. Well, we'll be there this year. We've been there for the last 2-3 years, and we will be there through 2025. We gave the deposit for our retreat through that year, so highly recommend that you perhaps take advantage of being there with us this year or in the years to come. So that's just a little bit of the history of our religious science path and what spurred us, what brought us on. There's a lot more to it than that, but you would learn all that if you start taking Science of Mind classes. Religious science really espouses classes, and so we have first-year classes which pretty much go by what the textbook is, what Ernest Holmes wrote in the textbook, and it's a year-long program. You finish that one, then you can graduate to second year, which is more studies on Troward and Emerson and other type of authors in that regard. You can also go to the third year, which is a practitioner, where you learn how to be a licensed practitioner, where you can have folks come to you for prayer treatment, for knowing the highest and best for them. And then fourth year rather, which is 2 years, is a ministerial. So once you complete each of those years of training, then you are eligible to become a religious science minister. Our educational arm for Anton Affiliated New Thought Network is under Emerson Institute. And Emerson Institute is able to give degrees honored by the state of California for bachelor's, master's, doctorate, and they have all sorts of different ones as well. You could be a chaplain for animals, and so they have a really amazing program. If you look at Emerson Institute online, they just keep coming up with these wonderful classes. The latest whole discourse that they have is the I Am courses. And so I highly recommend, if you're interested in furthering your education in our New Thought religions, to please look at Emerson Institute. And if we have some folks in this room that are interested in more Science of Mind classes, Science of Mind 1, and graduating up there, let me know. We'll schedule more on our books to get those started for the rest of us. I know that we have been doing a lot of book studies, and I was talking to one of the gals that is pretty much in charge of Emerson at this point in time, and she was saying, oh, send me what you're doing in these book studies, what the books are, and how the thing is organized, and we'll see what category those can fall under, so that you can receive credits under Emerson Institute for our book studies that we've been doing. So again, if anyone's interested in wanting to get those accreditations, let me know, and we'll work on that avenue for you. So the primary teachings of Science of Mind, and you've heard me say this every week, that there is one power and one presence, known by many, many names, and we call it God, we call it love. We know that there is one mind, and it is the mind of God. And that mind is what we think with. We have a teaching symbol that we got hanging up here on our wall this morning. And it's basically a circle with 3 levels, like a beach ball. And that top level is what we look at as spirit. The middle level we look at as law or subconscious. And then the third level is the effect or the physical or the manifestation. And you see the V going down that's how spirit moves through the law, which is the subconscious, and then into physical form. And then goes back up because it learns from its manifestations. So we are, just to give you an example of just a really simple one. So here we are spiritual beings, right? Spiritual beings having a human experience. And so within us is the mind of God. Within us is that heart and love of God. And so what we are doing is, what we start with spirit and we say, you know, I have this inclination that I'd like some beauty. I like more beauty in my life. Beauty is one of the attributes of God. Okay, so then it goes down through our subconscious mind, through the law, through our thinking process, as we're using it, the one mind of God in our individualized thinking. And we have this idea, I think, you know what would be nice if I would plant a rose bush. That would give me some beauty, more beauty in my life, that I could appreciate it. And so then we go about, that's the second step. The third step then, we go about, we get a rose bush and we dig the hole and we plant it. And voila, there is our manifestation. There is the third step in the demonstration of what started out as a spiritual attribute. There's the beauty, that rose bush is representing the beauty that I wanted to have in my life. And so we talk about all of the ways that our lives demonstrate our thinking, our word, and many times it's interesting because at this point, back in the day, Ernest Holmes would say there's the mind of God, there's the power of God, and I can use it. And for me, at this point, I have kind of morphed into there is a power of God, and I am willing to let it use me. Because I feel that this power and presence knows a whole heck of a lot more than what my humanness can initially know. But when we believe that this spiritual power is running our lives, is living our lives, we let go, we step aside of that egoic self, we surrender, we turn it over, whatever type of wording you want to use, from us having to make it happen, to allowing this spirit that comes through us to move through us and give us its beautiful gifts. I want to reiterate again what I had written in the thought for the week, that science of mind is the synthesis of the greatest concepts that have ever come to the mind of humankind. The laws of Moses, the love of Christ, the ethics of Buddha, the morals of Confucius, and the deep spiritual realization of the Hindus all find an exalted place in the philosophy of religious science. A couple of the main quotes that Ernest Holmes is known for is that we are open at the top. Meaning that we don't say that, yeah, we got it all handled, we know exactly what everything's about. We're open at the top to allowing spirit to bring forth more of this infinite being that it is into our lives. One of the other quotes that Ernest Holmes is very famous for is, "Love points the way and law makes the way possible." Love is that first banner up there in that teaching circle. Law is the middle. That points the way. Whatever we have in our subconscious mind, that's what's going to direct that spirit. And it's not going to judge it. It's not going to say, oh, you may want to think about that a little bit. Maybe you don't really want that. It's not going to say if it's good or if it's bad. Because there is no judgment. It accepts everything, that soul, that law, that middle section, accepts everything that is implanted in it, and it turns around and just puts it out. So that's why we are so aware of honing in, being aware of our beliefs. What is it that I really believe? Because that's what's going to come out in the expression in our lives. So we are truly spiritual beings living a human experience. And that's why we emphasize every week, again and again and again, to go within, to feel the presence of the divine, to let it have space with us, to let it have that value and that importance, that priority, so that it can lead and guide us. But we need to still the monkey mind. We need to still that thinking mind and listen to that still small voice. There is a whole, holy self in the midst of our center of our being. And when we can absolutely unite with that, not just once a day, not just, at an hour of meditation or whatever it might be, but ongoingly stop and ask directions. How? What is the highest and best for me to proceed right now? I've been taking my walk very early this week. I mean, literally before the sun comes up because it's so sweltering hot. And on one of my walks this week, I had this download. And it said, be your best. And I thought, best, be my best. And it's an acronym. So the B is beautiful. E is evolving. S is soul. And T is today. I am a beautiful, evolving soul today. I am a beautiful, evolving soul today. That's an example of one of the teachings that we espouse. One of the basics is affirmations. To bring forth an affirmation that speaks to you, that says this is something that can feed me, and you write it down, you put it in front of you, you have it within your awareness that this is what I want to live by today. That I am a beautiful, evolving soul today. Very open-ended. It's not a specific thing at all. It's just a beautiful, evolving soul today. I wanted to close this lesson today. I know we normally repeat our oneness blessing, oneness prayer rather, at the end of service, but I'd like us to take it out now, and I'd like to anchor this talk with saying our oneness prayer. There is one mind, the mind of God, and this mind thinks as me each and every moment. There is one heart, the heart of God, and this heart loves as me each and every moment. There is one life, the life of God, and this life lives as me each and every moment. God is and I am. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well, for only God is here, and so it is. Namaste. Blessings.